Hey all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani. Ellen Ray Greenburg was born on June 23rd, 1983, to parents Sandy and Josh in New York City, New York. Allison Stern stated that she was Ellen's best friend, that she was beautiful, had a gorgeous smile, was kind and generous. Friends stated she was a great person who did well in high school. After graduating, Ellen moved to Philadelphia in an apartment in Manioc, a place where many similar-aged people lived. Ellen earned her degree in communications from Pennsylvania State University, then her teaching credentials from Temple University and Chestnut Hill College, eventually becoming a first-grade teacher. Ellen appeared to enjoy the social scene, but as her friends started beginning to settle down, it became clear that she wanted a family too. Ellen met Sam Goldberg as the result of a blind date, and shortly after meeting, Sam was down in North Carolina on a work trip, and after a month of talking, he brought her down to see him. The two spent the weekend together, and after that, were officially a couple. After 3 years, Sam proposed in June of 2010. Ellen was ready to start her future and have a big family. In November, December of that year, however, friends say that Ellen's light was gone. Ellen shirked it off, saying it was stress from work, the large classroom sizes and paperwork she was dealing with. And her class had an average between 30 to 40 children that she was taking care of. One of the fellow teachers stated that she went into Ellen's room one day and Ellen simply broke down crying. Ellen spoke with her parents, stating she wanted to go back to Harrisburg. Josh asked if she'd be willing to try a psychiatrist first, and if that didn't work, she could come home. Ellen agreed and saw a psychiatrist, and after several medication changes, she found one that seemed to be working for her. She appeared to be happy again, but coworkers state that she stopped wearing her engagement ring around the same time. Then, on January 26, 2011, a huge snowstorm rolled in. As Ellen, again, was a first grade teacher at this time in the area, the storm caused the school to close early. So Ellen filled up her fuel tank and headed home. Sam was already home around this time, but he left around 4:50 to go work out. And when he returned to the apartment at about 5:28 p.m., he found that he was locked out. After texting Ellen and getting no response, he went to the concierge and told the man that Ellen was home early and may have accidentally locked the door on him, but he was unable to get back into the apartment. The concierge stated he couldn't leave the front desk, but would attempt to find maintenance. Sam heads back upstairs and continues to attempt to get Ellen to answer the door. A neighbor says that he was knocking and pacing up and down the hall and frantically texting her. After 20 minutes, he returns to the front desk and again tries to get someone to unlock the door. Finding that nobody would assist, Sam proceeded back upstairs and broke the door in. Then, Sam finds Ellen and called 911. He stated in the call that Ellen stabbed herself or fell on a knife and it was sticking out of her chest. At 6:40 p.m., EMT and police arrived and Ellen is considered dead on sight. EMTs tell the concierge they need homicide. At the scene, police speak with Sam, who began talking about Ellen's mental health issues, and for some reason, everything was taken at that. It was a suicide. The medical examiner, or ME, takes a few photos of the scene, labeled her death as a suicide, and basically called it a day. Sam called his parents, who in turn were the ones to call Ellen's own parents. As it is considered a suicide, there's no crime scene. Sam is not asked to leave. So, sure, this could be an open and shut case until anyone with common sense starts looking into the details. First, let's talk about suicide. Statistically, women who commit suicide do so by pills or suffocation, manners that would be considered less painful. Yes, the U.S. has a higher rate of firearms in recent years, but at the time of this event, that was not the case. Next, let's talk about her injuries in the scene. Since we're talking about the manner of death as suicide, and she had a knife sticking out of her chest, Dr. D. Michelle Dupree, an independent medical examiner, stated that the ME is supposed to be a neutral party, that at any crime scene itself, The scene is the responsibility of police, but the body and surrounding items are the responsibility of the ME. That they are supposed to be the ones to look at the body and the belongings and the scene kind of there and determine if the story matches what the scene is telling them. In the case of Ellen, DeMichelle reports that the ME rushed this case. They didn't pay attention to the evidence and just went along with what Sam was telling them. I mean, after all, they only got a few photos, and I mean a few. We don't even have half the pictures of her stab wounds documented until after autopsy. Ellen's body was found in a supine position, head slightly upward against the cupboard, but there was coagulated blood running down the side of her face towards her ear, suggesting she was laying in a different position while the blood was running. There are no photos of the scene, again, like I just said, and she was stabbed 20 times. The ones on her back weren't even acknowledged until autopsy. Yeah, she stabbed herself in the back as an apparent suicide, apparently. She also received blunt force trauma to the back of the head. It also wouldn't be noted until autopsy that she had bruises all over her body in different stages of healing, about 10 to 12. If you're a mandated reporter and you hear this, the first thought is probably going to be abuse. It's the A word. That is what we're trained to look at, bruising and other injuries in various stages of healing. Though I will say that according to the information I could find, Ellen did not report any abuse to her friends or family, and her psychiatrist reported that she denied it there as well. Still, just a thought. Melissa Ware, the apartment manager at the time, stated that the apartment had a key fob system that logged each tenant in and out. Visitors had to sign in. The parking lot was gated. Cameras were in all entry and exit areas as well as common areas, though they didn't have cameras in the elevators or the hallways themselves. Footage corroborates Stam's story partially, that he left to work out and then returned after finishing to find his apartment locked. Again, we can't see the hallway. The video shows him in the lobby multiple times. Texts sent from his phone seem to indicate the same, as he is trying to re-enter his apartment. Although later he would say that he went with the concierge officer to his apartment and therefore had a witness that he had to break in his own door. Video evidence here shows that he was solo when he moved throughout the apartment, and the concierge reiterates multiple times that he was not allowed to leave the post unless it was for law enforcement officers. One detective reported that it was a slow night on the night of the incident due to the weather. The call came in for a suicide, and since it wasn't considered a major crime, they didn't bother to go out and verify or had the scene held. Police did show up, but like street cops, to the scene to ask some questions. Again, no detectives, and the scene is never considered a crime scene, allowing it to remain unsecure. Melissa received a call the next day from Sam's uncle, James Schwartzman, asking to get some of Ellen's things for her funeral. So Melissa called the police just to kind of ensure that she was allowed to open the apartment, and they said it would be fine to let people in. Again, not considered a crime scene. Melissa didn't want the family to have to see anything disturbing, and so she called a local crime scene cleanup to help get rid of the mess in the apartment before allowing family in. Then Melissa decided to go to the apartment herself with a video camera. She reported she didn't want to be held responsible for items if they went missing after letting in a man she had never met. Melissa said she remembered the crew going in, cleaning up all of the blood, and putting the silverware in the dishwasher before turning it on. After that, they left, and James was let in to retrieve what he wanted. James was in the apartment for about 15 minutes before leaving, but not before taking Ellen's laptop and phone. He also took credit cards of both Ellen and Sam at the time. Marlon Osborne, the ME, looked at the findings at autopsy, and after all the information was compiled, initially ruled Ellen's death as a homicide. The family of Ellen was never notified of this, and still, the body was released to the family and, according to Jewish custom, was prepared by women. The women spoke out about what they had seen and how it couldn't have possibly been at Ellen's own hands. Then, on the morning of her funeral, it was announced on the local news that Ellen's death was considered a homicide and police were going to investigate. Other family members had seen the broadcast, and a cousin ended up relaying it to Ellen's parents. As Josh got up to give the eulogy, he announced Ellen was murdered. After the funeral, another custom is to sit Shiva. People come to sit with the family for 7 days. And when Sam and his parents showed up to Ellen's parents' house, they went to a bedroom and Josh told Sam that Ellen's death was now considered a homicide and police were going to investigate, which meant they were going to investigate Sam as he was the closest loved one. So, after crime scene cleanup came out, after James took Ellen's electronics, finally investigators come out. But it is obviously too little, too late. There isn't any evidence left at the scene, and even if there was, it wouldn't be admissible in any type of court scenario as the chain of custody was certainly not intact. During investigation, James does return the electronics to police, but again, the chain of custody just wasn't there. With any knowledge, internet searches could be created or deleted, along with a plethora of other information that can be done to computers. So, what is actually on Ellen's electronics? Potentially only Sam's family knows the truth. For some unknown reason, 2 weeks after Ellen's death is marked as a homicide, it is changed by Marlon Osborne to a suicide. Then it seems like nothing happens in Ellen's case, and so the Greenburgs bring in Tom Brennan, a retired law enforcement officer. He worked as a PI for them. Tom saw many of the inconsistencies when reviewing the case, and still, after years of stagnation, decided they needed the news to light a fire under the case. And in 2017, a reporter answers the call, and together, a news article is put together highlighting the tragedy of Ellen's case and the mishandling, which is released by the Philadelphia Inquirer on March 15th, 2019. People latched onto this, but city officials seemed to realize they needed to supply answers, and it wasn't what anybody expected. In 2019, the Office of Pennsylvania Attorney Josh Shapiro had taken over the case. They released a statement that Ellen's computer search history pointed towards Ellen's death being a suicide and that they were closing the investigation. Again, how they could even be so brazen as to use her computer that was in someone else's possession for a time following her death is incomprehensible at most. Why did Shapiro seem to care? Well, in July of 2022, personal relationships between him and the Goldbergs were identified, leading to even more doubt on this already doubtful case. According to the Inquirer, quote, the Greenbergs and their attorney, Joseph Padraza Jr., filed their lawsuit against the city in October 2019, seeking to have the manner of Ellen's death changed back to homicide or undetermined, a move that would allow for an investigation to be reopened and pave the way for a possible wrongful death or misconduct lawsuit against the city. We're asking to change the manner of death and open a new investigation with impartial people and an impartial prosecutor, Joshua Greenburg said. We are not asking for the moon, just justice for our daughter. The Philadelphia Law Department is ardently defending the suit and the suicide ruling, even if Osborne's findings were incorrect, which the city contends they were not. The law makes clear that a medical examiner can be wrong as to the manner of death, yet cannot be compelled to change it, city attorneys wrote in court filings. The Greenburg suit has unveiled new information about the unusual process around how Ellen's death was classified and new testimony about whether one of the wounds to her neck was possibly administered after she died. But will the civil suit, which is headed to Commonwealth Court, be enough to get the manner of death changed? And will that provide any more information about how Ellen Greenburg died, or provide closure to her family? One thing is clear, Ellen Greenberg's death remains a mystery. Even Osborne, who stands by his suicide ruling, testified at deposition that the case was unusual. I think the consensus initially was that it was very, very weird, he said. End quote. Even with all that, for some reason, the state of Philadelphia refused to just acknowledge how terribly they treated Ellen's case. And as such, they have maintained Ellen managed to stab herself 10 times in the back and the neck area, as well as 10 times in her chest, as part of a suicide. It should be noted that in recent years, Osborne has come out and said that they should change the manner of death to other than suicide after reviewing all of her cases. And I really feel like this is just from all the pressure on him and realizing, it's very clear and obvious that a typical person wouldn't be able to stab themselves in the neck 10 times in the back. I think that's fairly certain. In addition, outside examiners, every single time it has been reviewed, have stated that this should be a case of homicide. Every independent source that has come out and reviewed her case has ruled it other than homicide. The only people that are labeling this as suicide are those that seem to be attached to Sam's family and or taking Sam's word from the beginning. And unfortunately, that is where the case stands today. We don't have any more information on her, and nothing has been resolved. So, with that, to all those out there listening, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.